was a little lag there, but welcome, Cheryl.
Well,
This is Mind Finds with Janita, and I'm here with Cheryl Morris. And we are going to do energy cycles for women for this episode. Cheryl, it's
thank
a
you.
pleasure to have you here. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Charel Morris, and I work with energy and have been evolving that ability and skill over the last almost 50 years now, mixing many things: color, sound, words, music, energy. It's all energy. So I'm excited for what we're going to do today.
All right. So tell us more about energy and what does energy really mean for all of us?
Yes, yes. Um, well, we're at a great time because it used to be just something that was kind of very woo woo over to the side with those crazy folk until science came along, as they often do, into spirituality and said, actually, yes, everything is energy. And for those of us who'd been working with energy for a while, it was nice to hear their agreement. What we know, both intuitively and scientifically, is that literally everything is energy. It's just different frequencies of energy. The table, the computer, water, air, people. We are all energy at some frequency level. And that a lot of what we do when we're doing energy work is also looking at the fact that energy has a tendency to come in waves, different waves, and they're slightly different. And so if you're wanting to work on something and get someone in a more coherent, calm space, then you want to get all those frequencies to match. You want all those waveforms to match. I do healing a lot with something called scalar waves, which are very unusual waves, and we're working with them in a different structure in the body. The thing about energy that's so amazing for us is that you can affect and shift and work with energy because your thoughts, your mind is doing that. Excuse me. And for some of us, like I have a tendency to move my hands just because it feels right to me. I'll play with energy. And it's my intention, my focus, that's working with the energy that is just everywhere around us. Does that kind of give you an idea?
Yes, I heard you say about the coherence. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you get to that point? How do you get to that heart space? How do you bring that energy there?
Um, well, coherency is not just heart space. There
Okay.
are various ways. We know from um, the heart mind folks that if you breathe, if you're doing some breath work and you breathe to a nice slow count of six, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in and then six out, begins to pull the brain and the heart into coherence. And if you're doing some work or visualization and you you have that breath count going, then just imagine that you're breathing into your heart and out of your heart. A way to just bring your body into coherence that I recently learned from a wonderful woman, or got to practice with her, had to do with choosing a quality that you wanted to experience, that you wanted, like say you were going out to a meeting and you wanted this quality to be within you and expressed through you. Not like a t-shirt that says love is love, but just from who you are. And just with your intention and into your body and focusing with awareness into your body with that word. You're not having to scream it to the world, you just are holding it in your consciousness. Because words have frequency. And if it's a positive, uplifting word, it's going to have a more positive, uplifting frequency. And you can literally is the wrong word, with your intention, you can begin to sense that vibration of this word in your body. And that brings your body into coherence because you're having this word all through your body. It's sort of like the whole research around using a word with water. Whether you write it on the bottle, you put something written down and put a glass bottle on it, if that word is positive and uplifting, that water, when they test it, has all these beautiful structures. It's very elegant, very life-giving. If you put words that are not happy, loving, it's like hatred or whatever, then it doesn't, the water molecules don't make these beautiful forms. They make kind of mushy forms. If you're looking at a blood sample from someone who has cancer, it is not in the normal, beautiful shape of a blood cell. So it's through all sorts of things, and it really is something I think you try and you work with it, and you start finding yourself really wanting to be in that space because it feels so much better. And you get a lot more done in your work and how you're feeling. And you don't necessarily even have to say anything to anyone because it's just moving out into the other energy of the world. But you're moving out inspiring energy and healing energy.
So let's talk specifically for women. In this
Mhm.
episode, we're talking about women. Um, when it comes to our energies, we experience different energies during different
Oh yeah.
days of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to shed some light on the specific days of our months?
Yes.
And do you have any experience or any story to share about that?
Yeah. The first 20 years for me were bad. I mean, most of the time it was just frustrating. Emotionally, I felt out of balance. Physically, I was in a lot of pain. And about 4 times a year, everything was like 10x. Everything was way bad. That's not very good English. Um, and I read a statement from an indigenous woman about how she saw this time when you're in your moment, your blood, you're having that element. And she talked about the fact that the reason it is so intense is because there is so much energy coming through you. And it's creative energy, it is your power. And I realized that how mine came about is I literally felt like there was this train that was coming up from the earth into my body, and I had to stop it because I didn't know what would happen if it got all the way up. So I was spending all my focus and my energy in trying to keep it down, which, didn't work all the time. And I read her work and this discussion of being creative, and it's my point of power. It's your time of power. And that's how come women have a tendency, like, when you're off at college or you're just around a group of women, we all end up kind of at the exact same time, which is an interesting energetic factor. And so I was coming around to that time for me, and instead of just like trying to not even think about it coming, I got out my watercolors. I got out some things I wanted to play with and create. And I never had a moment of PMS or whatever you want to call it from that time on. I went from feeling like I'd have 2 good weeks a month, and I was working in film and television. So my work as a technician was pretty intense and physical, and 12, 13, 14, 16 hours a day, kind of depending. So I would have 2 weeks that were good, and then the week before and the week of were a nightmare. So I was exhausted all the time. And then after I did this, the first time, I had 2 good weeks and a better week and a great week. And life was infinitely better at that after that point. So it's a simple solution. Let it come, let it flow, welcome it, and have something that you want to work on. Writing a letter, writing a book, baking a cake, does not matter. Let it come and be creative and never have to deal with it again. That was
So to
my experience.
summarize, nice. So to summarize that, would you say it's the powerful time for us women to be
Yes,
creative
yes.
and then use that energy to maybe paint or
Well, that energy is coming up to create a life. That is that time where everything inside is moving and changing, and all the hormones and stuff are lining up to create a life. And so it makes sense that it's our most creative, powerful time. And then the body is kind of taking everything in and preparing for the next round. So it makes sense. I mean, we were built to have this fluctuation. And yet no one ever actually explained the details, the beauty of it. I'm sure some people had that as a child. Most of us did not.
and we were talking just before we started the episode about the tribes that women would be kept on the side during those uh, times of their periods. What was their um, like? What was the mindset around that for them? Like,
Well, I think in the indigenous community, they understood that there was this shift, there was this kind of magic happening. It wasn't as it was interpreted by um, Europeans in terms of America and Canada, that, oh, well, they're just, it's yucky. We don't want them around right now. But in reality, tribes understanding earth energy and how things move and how they honor that The women are there because it's an honoring time. It's their power. And so it was an honoring. It wasn't a like push them away. The women together in the same way that we end up in sync with each other. If you think about that, of a tribe of a few hundred people, that's a whole lot of power. And women who were pregnant or new birth or young women who were not in their periods yet, they would be all in there kind of honoring that part of what we as women are. So it's interesting because yes, the assumption by outsiders
Yes.
is very different.
Yeah. So my understanding now is the women were kind of going by themselves to
Uh-huh.
honor, and we like outsiders were like kind of, oh, this is the cultural thing. Men are kind of telling them not to go for something, but
Yeah,
women wanted to be together during
yeah.
those times.
It's sort of like these days we would take, a girls' weekend at the spa
Mm,
because we want to be together. We want to be in a place where there's honor and there's love and there's support. And it was a major shift in my life. I mean, I got back 2 weeks of every month.
mm,
It's very hard to feel like you're able to get everything done that you want to get done and do what you want to do, and all of that stuff that theoretically I have 30 to 31 days for, but now I only have like 14 or 15. And I got back to having
I have a question here,
Mhm.
um, from my friend, and she asks, um, what can we do to maintain energy, and if there is a formula to balance it throughout the day or month?
um, I think honestly it's looking at being able to balance it daily, because I think once a month probably, you know, too much happens. Um, I work with breath as a key piece, and it may be breathing. Like as you're waking up in the morning, do some very good deep breaths. Doesn't need to be even to a specific count. It's just take in some air. Let that night air, oxygen that's been with you, let it out. Bring in more. Um, and honestly, one of the best things you can do is just set up a schedule if you need, but take deep conscious breaths all through the day. If you do that for like a minute or two every hour, you are totally reoxygenating your body. And, you know, breath was the first thing we did when we got here, and breath will be the last thing we do when we leave.
Mm.
So we have a tendency, especially in this Western country, of breathing very shallow, which is a signal to your body that you're in deep stress. Just not good. And it's not like it is stress, it's just that we're breathing only to here, which is like we don't make that sound or do that when we breathe, but that's the trigger to the body, which is not helpful and drains you. So if you take some time every hour and breathe, just breathe down into your abdomen, take 5 nice deep breaths. Get conscious about your breathing. It's the fastest. That and a lot of water. They're simple.
And would it work for like, is there a difference like low energy and high energy? How you deal with that, through breathing?
Mm.
Are there like different breath work that we have to do?
There is breath work I teach people to do when they're dealing with a lot of stress, especially when, like, if you're working with a company, a corporation, whatever, where you know that at certain times of the month or the year, life gets crazy. And you know that you just, you don't want that. You don't like it. It messes up the rest of your day or your life with your family. So there are things there to do um, that take 2 minutes. And you can do it while you're walking around and your eyes are open, nobody knows, and it just pulls you out of the stress and anxiety of the moment. Those sorts of things, over the last 5 or 10 years, it's become really something I look for, that to find really short, simple things that people can easily do that will change things drastically. And I'm still on that journey because people are discovering things, and also we now have science which can test. I mean, it's it's a really good time to be living better. So yeah, so that would be my thing. I mean, water's required, air is required. So those are the fuels your body needs to keep itself vibrant.
So, do you have any special technique that you want to give it to our viewers today?
Um, well, one of the most common ones um, that you'll see all over, it's great, is to breathe in the count of 4, then hold your breath for the count of 7, and then breathe out for a count of 8. And that just kind of balances everything. And the breathing in makes perfectly sense. The holding kind of gets your body ready to release everything, and then the longer exhale, you're really getting air out that needs to go out. We were talking a little earlier about the count of 6, a slow count of 6 in and 6 out
Mm-hmm.
is also really, really good, just to kind of get everything, all the stuff inside this going, why are we doing this? What's going on today? It just kind of brings everything into place. And part of it that I love is that it's about connecting the heart and the mind, especially now that we know that the heart has so much to do with our brain. It is another brain, and the one we use most. So those are things. And honestly, just breathe. Just breathe. Um, I was reading an article, and it was talking about scientists discovering all this about breath and the importance. And I thought, it's so cool that they finally realized that breathing is important. And we're all brilliant because we've known it for a long time. You have to breathe regularly.
So, would you say it's like breathe, but then consciously
Consciously breathe.
doing the counts, and then
What?
women can use this two techniques that you mentioned during their periods?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, the conscious breathing is literally just stopping for a moment and taking a nice deep breath and then letting it out. That will help. If you can get 4 or 5 in that moment, great. If you can do it once an hour, excellent. It doesn't take much to get our body to kind of go, okay, that's good, we're working again, thank you. And that's the key. Um, and you'll keep doing it a bit more and a bit more.
Yeah. So, start small, start with doing it once an hour,
Yeah,
and then as you get used to it, it will just subconsciously you'll start doing it.
yeah, yeah. There's
Great.
you know, there's other things and stuff. Well, I mean, you've been to the energy party I do. So,
Yeah. Tell us more about what else do you offer, and you have anything coming up?
well, we're doing something on Saturday, the 22nd of January, um, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, so it's 9 on the West Coast. It's actually sort of a off Broadway trial of a program
Mm-hmm.
I want to do because, as I mentioned, I really love people learning to do very simple things that will make a major difference and learning how energy can affect them in so many ways: health, mind, emotions, everything, even how you talk to your boss. Um, and so we're doing a thing on Saturday. It's free. It's called Magical Tips for Practical Problems. And I came up with the title because I like the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and over the last 20 years, doing all the conferences I do in hacker and technology and open source, the times I've used what I understand from the energy side, the woo woo side, if you want to call it that, to change how a business is operating is very interesting. So we're doing that on Saturday. We're going to have a Zoom link here, or you can reach out to us and get it and come and play.
So they can email you at charel@charelmorris.com,
Uh huh.
and then you
Uh-huh.
send them the Zoom link, and it's free. They can come for the event.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants,
Yeah.
is it specifically for women or
Yeah. It's wide open.
wide open?
It's
Okay,
for
great.
people who are curious or interested, and some people may know something really amazing that they can add to the mix. So, all we're all we're going to ask of people is to participate, and at the end, if you'd like to share your experience or do a testimonial or something, give us your sense of what's going
Feedback.
on. This is a brand new piece, and I'm doing it with another woman who is an amazing coach for high end business people and also a Gestalt person, which is a very interesting form of therapy. And we have such fun when we talk back and forth and work on things. So
Mm-hmm.
come and play with us.
Sure. So you can, anybody who is live, or if you're watching the replay, you can email Charel at charelmorris.com
Mm-hmm.
and get your Zoom link to join the free event,
Yeah.
or we can also put it in the comments for the Zoom link.